As rain tapped against the car window, I was still telling Norma where'd go buy her favorite strawberry cake that afternoon. She sat in her car safety seat, her little legs swinging, her voice sweet as if soaked in honey. Mom, I want the biggest one, and I'll share it with Dad. I smiled and reached out to gently stroke her soft hair. At the next intersection, the traffic light switched to red. I pulled the handbrake and turned my head, wanting to say one more thing to her. The piercing screech of the brakes suddenly cut through the rain. I only had time to see a runaway truck hurtling towards us. Instinctively trying to shield Norma, the violent impact flipped the car over. The sharp sting of glass shards piercing my skin mingled with Norma's short, frantic cries. In an instant, the world turned into a blood-red slow motion. I was trapped in the mangled driver's seat, helplessly watching the car safety seat shatter to pieces. Norma's tiny body lay in a pool of blood, completely still. I can't clearly remember what happened afterward. All I remember is Cameron, like a madman, prying open the twisted car door and pulling me out. His voice was trembling as he kept calling my name, calling Norma's name over and over. I was like a soulless puppet, letting him hold me, my eyes fixed lifelessly on the patch of rainwater stained red. Norma's strawberry cake, in the end, was never bought. After the funeral, I couldn't eat anything anymore. No matter how many of the dishes Cameron made that I used to love, even if it was just a spoonful of porridge, I couldn't help but gag when it was brought to my lips. My stomach was empty, yet it was filled with overwhelming fear and guilt, leaving no space for anything else. I always felt it was because I hadn't protected Norma well enough. If I hadn't chosen that road, if I had driven a little slower, if I had reacted even a little faster. Countless have swirled in my mind, slicing at my nerves repeatedly like knives. My weight is dropping at a rate visible to the naked eye. Clothes that once fit now hang loosely, empty and swaying. The face in the mirror is pale, with sunken eye sockets, protruding cheekbones, and a hollow, terrifying gaze. I don't dare look in the mirror, nor be alone. Nights awake me with nightmares, filled with Norma's crying voice calling for her mother. I began to feel that living held no meaning. Without Norma, this house is no longer a home. The first time I tried to kill myself was during the 3rd week after Norma left. At the moment when Cameron was at the company, I found the sleeping pills at home and shoved them all into my mouth at once. The bitter taste of the pills spread across my tongue, yet I felt a sense of relief. As my consciousness blurred, I thought I saw Norma running toward me, smiling, calling out, "Mom." When I came to again, I was lying in a hospital bed. Cameron sat by my bedside, his eyes bloodshot, blue stubble peppering his chin, his whole self exhausted beyond recognition. Seeing that I'd woken, he suddenly grabbed my hand, his voice raw and hoarse. "Fiona, you scared me to death." His hand was burning hot, trembling with heat. I turned my face away, not wanting to look at him. "Let me die, Cameron," I whispered. "I'm sorry for Norma. I didn't protect her." Cameron's body stiffened for a moment. Then he held me tightly in his arms. His chin rested on the top of my head, his shoulders trembling slightly. "It's not your fault, Fiona," he repeated over and over. "It was an accident. It has nothing to do with you. Don't carry all the blame yourself. I can't live without you, Fiona." His voice trembled with tears. "Norma is already gone. What should I do if something happens to you too?" I leaned into his embrace, tears finally flowing uncontrollably. That was the first time I cried out loud since Norma left. After being discharged, Cameron turned down all unnecessary work and stayed with me every day. He found new ways to cook for me, even though I only took a bite or two each time. He took me to the park for walks, pointing at the clouds and telling me that one looked like Norma's favorite little bunny. He would take out Norma's pictures and reminisce with me about the old days, his voice as gentle as if handling fragile treasures. "Fiona, well, he'll slowly, okay?" He held my hand, his eyes filled with hope. "For me, and for Norma. Norma would definitely want to see you well too." I looked into the redness in his eyes and suddenly felt a wave of guilt. Norma's passing was a devastating blow for him as well, yet he forced himself to stay strong, turning around to take care of me, to comfort me. That night, Cameron made a bowl of millet porridge, slow cooked until soft and flavorful. He brought the porridge over to me, scooped a spoonful, and carefully blew on it to cool. "Fiona, just one bite, okay?" I looked into his hopeful eyes, hesitated for a long moment, then finally nodded. The warm porridge slid down my throat into my stomach. Without the gagging I had dreaded, I took another spoonful. That night, I ate nearly half a bowl of porridge. Cameron was overjoyed, like a child, his eyes glistening with tears. Since then, I've been forcing myself to eat. At first, I still felt nauseous and would vomit after eating. But I didn't want Cameron to worry anymore, so every time I forced myself to swallow. Gradually, things began to improve. I was able to eat more and more, and my weight slowly started to come back. My complexion was no longer as pale as before, and there was a flicker of life in my eyes. Cameron was happier than anyone to see my change. He often took me out to eat, to watch movies, trying to get our lives back on track. Today is the day of my follow-up checkup. The doctor said my condition has improved greatly, and the eating disorder is almost completely healed. As long as I maintain a positive mindset going forward, it won't relapse. Clutching the follow-up report, my heart swelled with joy. I wanted to share this wonderful news with Cameron right away. Cameron's company isn't far from the hospital. I didn't call him, I wanted it to be a surprise. I pushed open the door to his office but froze at the threshold. Inside, Cameron was sitting with a young woman. She wore a pale intern uniform, her face lit with a sweet smile. On the table before them lay a pile of blind boxes. Cameron held one, carefully helping the girl unwrap it. The girl leaned in close, her eyes shining brightly as she stared at the blind box, full of anticipation. The instant the blind box was open, the girl let out a cheer and clapped her hands excitedly. Cameron looked at her, a gentle smile spreading across his face, a smile I hadn't seen in a long time. That kind of smile used to belong only to me and Norma. My heart felt as if gripped tightly by an invisible hand, aching so fiercely I could hardly breathe. The follow-up report slipped to the floor. Making a faint sound, Cameron and the girl turned their heads at the same time to look at me. Cameron's smile froze instantly, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes. Fiona, what are you doing here? He stood up and walked toward me. I ignored him, my eyes fixed tightly on the girl. The girl also stood up, looking uneasy as she whispered, Miss Clark, nice to meet you. I'm the new intern. My name is Ava Donald. I didn't answer her, nor did I look at Cameron. I just turned and walked away. Cameron called my name from behind, his voice urgent. I ran as fast as I could, as if fleeing from a merciless flood or beast. The sunlight outside was blinding, yet I felt frozen all over. I had always believed that Cameron, like me, was still lost in the pain of losing Norma. I thought we would carry our memories of Norma together and slowly move forward, but I was the only one still trapped in the shadows of the past. He had already begun a new life, with someone new beside him. Unconsciously, I had arrived at the riverside. The river wind was strong, tangling my hair into a mess. The river surged, pounding against the rocks by the shore with a heavy, muffled roar. I thought of Norma, her sweet smile, her voice calling me Mom, and also Cameron's smile from just a moment ago, so gentle, yet not meant for me. Despair rose in my heart like the tide, threatening to drown me. Maybe I was never meant to live. Without Norma, without Cameron's love, what meaning is left to life? Step by step, I walked toward the riverside, the icy water creeping past my ankles. Just as I was about to move forward, a strong arm suddenly wrapped around me from behind. Fiona, what are you doing? Cameron's voice was thick with panic and anger as he pulled me back to the shore. I struggled, desperate to break free from his grip. Let me go, Cameron, let me go, I cried out. You already have someone else, so why do you still care about me? Cameron pulled me back to the shore, holding me tightly as if trying to fold me into his very bones. What nonsense are you talking about? His voice trembled. I have no one else, I only have you. Ava followed us over, standing not far away, her face pale as she watched us. Seeing how Cameron and I looked, she suddenly stepped forward and shouted at me, Miss Clark, can you stop being so selfish? Mr. Geller has suffered enough. He worries about you every day, yet you keep tormenting him like this. Selfish? I froze, then laughed bitterly, a laugh full of sorrow. Me, selfish? Cameron turned and shot Ava a sharp glare, his voice stern. Ava, this is none of your business. You should go back. Ava was startled by Cameron's tone, her eyes reddening as she said, Hurt, Mr. Geller. I just think you're going through too much, I said. Go back. Cameron's voice turned colder. Ava didn't dare to speak further and turned to run away. Cameron turned his head back to me, his tone softening with deep exhaustion. Fiona, let's go home first, whatever it is. We can talk about it at home, okay? I said nothing, letting him hold me. The river breeze blew cold against my face. I could feel Cameron's body trembling, his heartbeat racing wildly. I woke up again, and I was still in the hospital. The doctor said my high fever was triggered by emotional distress and a chill, so I needed to stay in the hospital for a few days of observation. Cameron sat by the bed, his eyes bloodshot, looking like he hadn't slept a wink all night. Seeing I was awake, he hurried over and softly asked, "Fiona, how are you feeling? Any pain or discomfort?" I turned my face away, unwilling to look at him, my tone cold. "I'm fine." Cameron's body tensed briefly. Then he sighed quietly and said, "Fiona, what happened yesterday isn't what you think. Ava is the new intern. Something happened at her home, and she's been feeling down. I saw she likes blind boxes, so I bought a few to open with her, hoping to cheer her up, nothing more. Is that so?" I sneered. "So that smile you just gave was out of sympathy too?" "Cameron, do you think I'm a fool? I know him all too well. He's not the kind of person who shows kindness to others lightly." Cameron frowned slightly, his tone tinged with helplessness. "Fiona, I know you're hurting right now, and you're very sensitive, but I really haven't betrayed you, after all these years together. Don't you believe me yet?" The moment I saw him being intimate with Ava, I stopped believing in him. I didn't say another word. I closed my eyes, pretending to sleep. Cameron sat on the edge of the bed, silent for a long time. After a while, his mobile phone rang. He answered the call, his tone urgent. It must have been an emergency at the company. After hanging up, he gently touched my hand and whispered, "Fiona, there's an emergency at the company. I have to go back and handle it. I've already asked the nurse to take care of you. I'll be back as soon as I'm done." I didn't respond to him. He sighed and turned to leave the hospital ward. The hospital ward was left with only me, terrifyingly silent. I opened my eyes, stared at the ceiling, and tears fell silently. I don't know how long had passed when my mobile phone suddenly vibrated. It was a text message from an unknown number. I tapped to open it, and my heart instantly sank to the bottom. The message contained a video. In the video, Cameron and Ava were eating at a restaurant. Ava was feeding Cameron, who didn't refuse but smiled and ruffled her hair. They looked inseparable, like a devoted couple. The video was short, only a few dozen seconds long, but every second felt like a knife, piercing deep into my heart. It turned out everything he said was a lie. He had long been with Ava. I was still acting like a fool, believing he would help me escape the shadows. Just when I was drowning in grief, my mobile phone rang again. This time, it was the nursing home calling. On the other end, the nurse's voice was heavy. "Miss Clark, your grandma suddenly fainted a moment ago. We've already taken her to the hospital, but the doctor said she might not make it. Please come quickly." My mind went completely blank. My grandma is one of the few relatives I have left in this world. She has always cared deeply for me, and for Norma as well. Since Norma passed away, she often comes to see me, comforts me, and urges me to keep living. How could I lose her? I stumbled out of bed, ignoring the nurse's protests, and rushed out of the hospital ward. I grabbed a taxi and headed straight to the hospital near the nursing home. By the time I arrived at the hospital, my grandma had already been rushed into the emergency room. The nurse told me that my grandma had a sudden heart attack and her condition was very critical. I sat on the chair outside the emergency room, trembling all over. I thought of Norma, of Cameron and Ava in the video, then of my grandma again. Why? Why do all the bad things have to happen to me? What on earth did I do wrong? The lights in the emergency room stayed on for what felt like forever, so long that I feared my grandma, like Norma, would leave me forever. Fortunately, the doctor finally came out and said my grandma was temporarily out of danger, but still needed to be observed in the intensive care unit for a few days. I breathed a sigh of relief. The weight that had been pressing on my heart finally lifted. I stayed by the intensive care unit door all night, unable to close my eyes. The next morning, Cameron called me. I didn't answer. He sent me many messages again, asking where I was and how I was feeling. I didn't reply to a single one. I didn't want anything to do with him anymore. At noon, the nurse from the nursing home brought me my grandma's mobile phone. The nurse said it was something my grandma had left at the nursing home and asked me to take good care of it. I took the phone, my heart wrenching with a sharp pang. My grandma's mobile phone is very old. It was something I bought for her a few years ago. I opened the mobile phone, wanting to see if there was anything important inside. When I flipped through the photo album, I was stunned.